USDA in February projected 2017 net farm income at $62.3 billion. That would be a drop of 9% from 2016 and nearly half the record farmers set in 2013. When commenting on 2016 levels last November, then Secretary of Agriculture Tom Vilsack pointed to off-farm sources of income as a stabilization to lower commodity prices. In fact, the USDA's most recent forecast said more than half of households lost money farming in recent years, most while earning positive income off the farm. Writing about the subject for economist.com, Purdue's David Widmar said since 2012, about 70% of total farm household income has come from off the farm. We talked with David recently about the sources and range of that income, but we started by asking how the USDA forecasts those numbers.
The USDA has a really great survey tool that they use, and it's through the ARMS database, the Ag and Resource Management Survey. And they, in 2015, they contacted and reached out to more than 19,000 farms across the country, and they do a really in-depth survey work. They talk about income, expenses, production practices, and this ARM database is then used to supplement a lot of the reports that we have, and this household income is one of these ARMS database-driven survey results.
And it becomes a mix of both off-farm and on-farm income, correct?
Yeah, when we talk about farm household income, there's really two components. There's the on-farm component and that off-farm component. And it's important to recognize that there are some differences across farm types.
So how important has off-farm income become to the farm household?
Yeah, when we look back over time, we've seen this steadily tick up over time, and most recently, we've seen that this off-farm income, on average across all farms in the country, accounts for about 70% of total household income, and that's been about the average for the last 4 or 5 years.
That's significant. That means it's the heavy lifter.
Yes, across all farms, that is the case. And as I alluded to earlier, when we talk about the farm types, it really becomes more prevalent for certain farm types and not so much in the others.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, so the USDA in this particular report has 3 farm types that they refer to. The resident farm types, these are farms with less than $350,000 in annual sales. And their primary activity or endeavor is not production agriculture. They have another off-farm job, or maybe they're in the retirement phase. For these farms, off-farm income actually accounts for more than 100% of farm household income. This means that on average over time, their farming activities run at a loss. These producers account for more than 60% of operations, but they're relatively small, and they account for less than 1/4% of total production.
And then as the farms get larger, that off-farm income becomes less important?
It becomes a smaller
less
share.
Significant? Yeah.
So the next phase is kind of intermediate farms. These are operations still less than $350,000 in gross farm sales. This off-farm income accounts for 90% of total household income. And then the next step here is these commercial farms. This is what we typically think about as a row crop or livestock operation out there. These producers account for about 10% of all operations across the U.S., so 10% of that 2.2 million USDA farms. They account for more than 75% of production. And on-farm income is the majority of their source of household income, accounting for up to 70% of total household income.
Can you describe how much both off-farm and on-farm income vary year to year?
Yeah, so when we look at these data, going back to 2012 is a really good look. On-farm income has gone from a low of about $23,000, again, across all farms and all farm categories. This was in 2017 forecast. When we look back to 2014, when we had a high, that was as much as $31,000. So it declined pretty substantially over that time period. Off-farm income reached a high of $103,000 back in 2014, and it dropped pretty substantially to $95,000 by 2015. It's worth noting that total household income has trended higher since 2015, but it's not really reached those 2014 highs.
Those are large numbers, David. That off-farm income, do we know where it's coming from, the sources of that income?
Yeah, so there's a couple of sources that the USDA looks at. One of them is active income, so wages or earnings from an off-farm job. Another source of this could be passive or investment income. And one way to think about this is if a farm's in sort of a retirement phase, there could be a large percentage of the operation. The farmland maybe is being rented out, so that could be a source of off-farm income.
So the question that I had to you earlier and you answered was, how is this factored into the USDA's overall forecast on net farm income? And the answer is it's not?
Yeah, so the USDA does a really great job a few times a year of projecting what total U.S. net farm income is. And that estimate is a subset of this on-farm income story that we're talking about. It's a subset of that total net farm income estimate. They're kind of allocating that on-farm income across different operation types throughout the U.S. This off-farm income is a different estimate. And so off-farm income is not included in the USDA's on-farm income estimates. It's typically referenced in the report as it's important to talk about the health of the rural and farm economy, thinking about these household incomes, especially for these larger or smaller operations, which actually are a large share of total producers out there.